Jon Anik, UFC 271, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker 2. Israel kind of dominated the first fight. He picked apart Robert Whittaker the first fight. Whittaker has since regrouped, got in a couple wins under his belt. If Adesanya dominates this fight again, historically, what does that mean for him? Does that elevate him into that GOAT status that people are talking about in the middleweight division?
It's a good question. 2 head-to-head wins over Robert Whittaker, given all that Whittaker has accomplished in the UFC, is a pretty big feather in your cap. But I think when you look at Anderson Silva as the consensus greatest middleweight of all time, and say what you want about some of the transgressions, right? But most people believe he's the greatest middleweight champion of all time. And a lot of that is rooted in the title defenses, not necessarily the style points with which he defended the title. So I think humbly, Adesanya has a long way to go. I also think it's very difficult to put proper historical context on a fighter who might have 10 or 12 fights left in the UFC. But a Whittaker win, a second one, would be absolutely huge. I think you're right in terms of Whittaker, where he's at right now in the winning streak. That winning streak gave him a lot of confidence. So even though his preparation was pretty good for the first Adesanya meeting, I think he's just a more confident fighter. I think he's a more mature man. And I think that it's closer than the betting odds would indicate here early on. But it's a huge fight for us, man. I don't have to tell you. It's a massive, massive fight, and the fans are geeked for it.
Do you think that Whittaker, the first time around, he kind of stood with Adesanya? Do you think with the jam below the fight, he's going to take Adesanya down this time around? Or
that seems to be the prevailing wisdom. I think he would be wise to mix it up, but it's all about when and how you do it, and how are you in transition. I always used to say about Floyd Mayweather when I was covering boxing, yeah, he got off to some slow starts against Sugar Shane Mosley and Conor McGregor, certainly. But Floyd was never flat on fight night. When you look at what Kamaru Usman has done in the UFC, never flat on fight night. It's okay to have a bad sequence, but by and large, they haven't had a bad night. And I think if you're asking me which guy needs to be closer to perfect to win the fight, I think it's Whittaker. So when are you taking him down? How are you choosing to take him down? Are you doing it towards the end of the round? How is your strength going to hold up on the floor? I think that remains to be seen. But yes, I think Whittaker and his camp would be wise to mix it up, and he's certainly got the well-rounded game with which to do it.
One more question on the GOAT stuff. What do you think Adesanya has to do? Is he even close to getting into that status, or do we still need 2 or 3 more years of title defenses before we start having those conversations?
Some people argue that he has already cleaned out the division, and I certainly would not make that proclamation. Derek Brunson, yeah, he's got a head-to-head win over him, but it was almost 4 years ago, and Brunson's a different beast. Jared Cannonier is lurking. I know Adesanya is disappointed that Darren Till wasn't able to methodically work his way into middleweight title contention, but he's undefeated in the weight class. He's never lost at 185 pounds, and that was Anderson Silva's reality forever in the UFC. So, yeah, I guess you add the second Whittaker win and then an accompanying title defense or 2, then maybe on my podcast, I'd be willing to open up the conversation. I'm just not there yet.
All right. Tell me you're working with Modelo Golden Ticket Promotion. Get one fan gets to get to go to 10 events. Is that real? Is that what's happening?
It's pretty crazy. And for me, this has been a real honor to align with Modelo, because I think to whatever degree my brand has been synonymous with their brand because of all the messaging brewed for those with a fighting spirit. You may recall when Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren. This Fight Clock is brought to you by Modelo, and Modelo is embedded in the call of one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history. So I wanted to align with the brand for a long time. But then when this promotion came to light, bro, it's not just 10 fights. Like, you're going to 10 pay-per-views. Like, it's one grand prize on top of another times 10. There's a whole behind the scenes package that will be a part of this as well. They'll be with me intimately throughout fight week, backstage, on television sets, all that fun stuff as well. But dude, I can't get past 2 floor seats to 10 consecutive pay-per-views. Like, it literally is taking your average grand prize sweepstakes and extending it over a calendar year. I can't think of any point of comparison in pro sports prior. So it's going to be a big deal for the winner come April. Of that, you can be sure.
So one thing is, you've got the countless events. These events are great. There's amazing moments all the time. I was at the Juliana Pena fight a couple months ago. Just a great, amazing moment, right? To experience.
Yeah, there's nothing like our live events, bro. Nothing like it.
Nothing like it. For you, what was that like wow event, wow moment for you that you've experienced being just a broadcaster, just watching it, and you're like, wow, this is amazing.
Well, I'll try to answer this efficiently because I've been doing this for about 10 years now for the UFC. I'll never forget when I called my first MMA fight in 2009, showing up thinking like, man, they got the wrong guy. Like, I barely know what I'm doing here. But there've been so many moments. Like I remember going to Brazil in 2013 and watching Vitor Belfort just destroy the world. So that was certainly special to me early on in my UFC career. But I think a lot of the pay-per-views in 2017 when I became the number one guy. You know, I'm very thankful for all the repetitions that I had prior to becoming the pay-per-view guy. But those early pay-per-views, man, you know, from UFC 208 on to UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden, which was obviously a very special night. It's hard for me to sort of handpick one moment. You know, I guess I'm just very thankful that the sport has elevated to a place in the US where it has been in the rest of the world for a long time. You know, the domestic footprint that we have made over the last 3 to 5 years with our domestic television deals and all of our great partners just has this sport in a mainstream spot that it just wasn't in 2015, 16. So we're pretty excited.
All right. Hopefully whoever wins gets to experience those moments, you know, those special moments that just, it's incredible. 10 events, Modelo, and behind the scenes, what would they be able to do with you behind the scenes?
Well, and I will say too, the only thing that's guaranteed in this promotion is that they are going to get one of those special moments, right? Because essentially you're probably going to attend 12 to 15 championship fights. All right. So on the behind the scenes front, you'll be with me shoulder to shoulder throughout fight week in my room as I'm revoicing fights that get canceled or rebooked. So you'll see a lot of my procedural things that I'm doing when it comes to the voiceovers and things like that. On the ESPN set with me when I host UFC Live on Friday, then we'll go downstairs theoretically to the ceremonial weigh-in where we'll watch Joe Rogan do his thing. You'll come with me into the dressing room on fight night. You're going to get your own fighter walkout, right? So you'll have me commentating your own walkout. You can sit in the broadcast booth with me if you want, and we can sort of mimic some of the great calls in UFC history. The world is going to be this person's oyster. And it's really unique because to spend a year on the road with us is going to have them embedded in a way that I don't think any grand prize winner has been embedded before.
All right. That sounds awesome. That sounds good to me. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate your coverage, man. Thank you.